KK Slider's music is instantly recognizable. With his unique robotic voice and catchy, easy-to-hum melodies, KK Slider is one of Nintendo's most unique musical characters. But what you might not have known is that writing KK Slider's music was a massive challenge for Animal Crossing's developers. It involved composing over 100 different songs across all kinds of genres, from jazz to rock to samba and more. Plus, those developers had to figure out what a singing dog should sound like. So, in today's video, I'll be breaking down exactly how KK Slider's voice works, and how Nintendo's composers created a music library of over 100 songs for KK Slider to sing. By the end of this video, you'll be an expert in all things KK Slider. Animal Crossing, or what would eventually become Animal Crossing, entered development around the year 2000. The game took inspiration from the life of its director, Katsuya Eguchi. When Eguchi joined Nintendo, he moved over 200 miles from Chiba Prefecture, where he grew up, to Kyoto, where Nintendo is located. Leaving all of his friends and family hundreds of miles away, Eguchi struggled with feelings of loneliness. He said in an interview, "I realized that being close to friends and family, being able to spend time with them, talk to them, play with them, was such a great, important thing. I wondered for a long time if there would be a way to recreate that feeling, and that was the impetus behind the original Animal Crossing." Now, across multiple years of development, Katsuya Eguchi's new project evolved and changed in many ways. It was at one point going to be more of a traditional RPG, before morphing into the life simulator we know as Animal Crossing today. But as development progressed, it became time to figure out what this Animal Crossing game would sound like. In charge of the sound team was a Nintendo veteran, the one and only Kazumi Totaka. And Totaka was in charge of a sizable team of people for Animal Crossing, 2 sound programmers and 3 composers, for a total of 6 people working on Animal Crossing's audio. Now, each of those 6 team members had different roles on the project. One composer wrote the hourly music. One composer wrote the music for events like Halloween and Toy Day. And one composer wrote all of KK Slider's music. And that composer was Toru Minagishi. So, before we go any further, I want to step back for a second and talk about KK Slider, the character. So, in the Animal Crossing series, there's 2 types of non-player characters, or NPCs, villagers and special characters. Villagers move in and out of your town, and there's hundreds of them in total. Special characters, on the other hand, are always in your town and fulfill a key role in the game. Tom Nook runs the main shop and loans you money to buy a house. The Able sisters run the clothes shop. There's only a handful of these special characters in the original Animal Crossing, and perhaps the most iconic of them is KK Slider, the singing dog. Now, KK Slider is based on Kazumi Totaka, the game's sound director, or at least such is often claimed online. I can't find a source to back it up, but it seems pretty likely. Kazumi Totaka is an avid guitar player himself. The pair share a distinct facial likeness, and Slider's Japanese name is Totakeke, which is a pretty obvious reference to Totaka's name. Nintendo even embraced this similarity when they had Totaka and KK Slider play guitar back-to-back in a promo video from a few years back. So, because of all of that, people often think that Totaka also wrote all of KK Slider's music. But no, that's not exactly true. Like I mentioned, it was a different composer on Animal Crossing's sound team, Toru Minagishi, who was tasked with composing the songs that KK Slider would play. Nowadays, Minagishi is a prolific Nintendo composer, having worked on many Mario, Zelda, and Splatoon games. But at the time, Minagishi had been working at Nintendo for less than 5 years, and had only worked on a small handful of games. After joining the Animal Crossing sound team, his boss, Kazumi Totaka, gave Minagishi the daunting task of composing over 50 different songs for the game, each one embodying a different, real-life genre of music. According to Minagishi himself, I had no problem composing music from genres I was already familiar with, but I couldn't create tunes from more than 50 different genres just using my imagination. And so, Minegishi had to sit down and take the time to study various genres of music from all around the world. For instance, he learned all he could about folk music from the Andes mountain range, what kind of instruments are used, what chords and melodies commonly appear. And finally, he turned the fruits of his labors into a song, KK Condor. Genre by genre, song by song, Minegishi built up a music library of 55 distinct pieces of music. Totaka told him to make these songs sound like they were played on a cheap keyboard, which explains their distinctive sound. So that was the first step in the process, but there was still a whole lot more work to do. Because the songs that Minegishi wrote were the versions that play inside villagers' houses, known as air check songs. But what about the live guitar performance versions, when you can watch KK Slider perform music in your town centre? Well, this was where Kazumi Totaka stepped in. Over the space of just 2 weeks, Totaka went through each one of Minegishi's short 30-second song loops and fleshed them out into full 2 to 3 minute long live performances. These live versions feature just 2 instruments, guitar and KK Slider's unique voice. So let's talk about that voice, shall we? Nintendo have been fairly tight-lipped over the years about KK Slider's unique voice, how it works and where it comes from. But by examining Animal Crossing's files, we can get something of a glimpse at how this came to be. So, unlike the more complex voice synthesis in games like Tomodachi Life, KK Slider's singing voice is made up of only a handful of short audio samples. Most of what you hear is only 5 sounds, in fact. Alongside those 5 syllables, there's also a couple of beatbox sounds, a couple of hums, a howl sound, which is actually split in half, and KK Slider's iconic whistle. In the original Animal Crossing, this whistle was actually noticeably out of tune. But in later games, this sample was replaced with a more in-tune whistle, which makes for easier listening. But where did these samples come from? In particular, the 5 vocal sounds. Well, I'm afraid that is a bit of a mystery. Just the year before the original Animal Crossing was released in Japan, Kazumi Totaka worked on another game soundtrack, a game called Mario Artist Talent Studio. This game seemingly has little in common with Animal Crossing, but take a listen to some of its music. You can clearly hear the similarity between Talent Studio's synthesized voice and the singing of KK Slider, which came only 1 year later. This was something that Totaka was experimenting with a lot around the turn of the century. But as for the 5 singing voice samples from Animal Crossing, their origin remains unclear. The most likely theory is that they're modified versions of Totaka's own voice. Kazumi Totaka has a long history of including his own voice in games he's worked on. He voices Olimar in Pikmin, Professor Egad in Luigi's Mansion, and Yoshi in Yoshi's Story. In fact, it's in that game that Totaka even provides Yoshi's singing voice. So, if Kazumi Totaka had previously experimented with using robotic singing, he'd included his own voice in games like Pikmin and Yoshi's Story, and you can even hear evidence of Totaka's voice elsewhere in the original Animal Crossing, then he's the most likely candidate to have recorded singing samples for KK Slider as well. But all of that is speculation. It could be that another Nintendo employee provided Slider's voice. It could be that the singing samples were taken from some kind of audio library. Or perhaps they were generated using some kind of Vocaloid-style synthesizer. I spent so much time trying to figure out this part of the story, but sadly, it remains a mystery. But regardless of where the samples came from, it was now time for Kazumi Totaka to rearrange all 55 KK Slider songs for guitar and voice. Like I said before, Kazumi Totaka had only a short 2 weeks to complete this task, which proved to be a very tight deadline. So tight, in fact, that Totaka explained, "I was so rushed that I was composing on the train." But by the end of the 2 weeks, Totaka had managed to finish arranging all 50+ songs for guitar and robotic dog voice. He also composed 3 more songs, which serve as bonus tracks when you request that Slider plays a song that doesn't exist. And so, in the final version of the game, speak to KK Slider on a Saturday evening and you can hear the fruits of Totaka's labours. But that's just the original Animal Crossing from 2001. In the years since then, KK Slider's song catalogue has just about doubled, and these new songs have been written by a variety of different composers. In Dorbutsu no Mori E+, which only came out in Japan, an additional 12 songs appear, along with 3 more bonus live-only tunes. Then in Animal Crossing City Folk, 3 more bonus tracks appear, along with 2 full-on new KK Slider songs. One written by Manaka Kataoka, and one written by Shiho Fuji. Both composers had only just joined Nintendo, so writing these 2 KK Slider themes was one of their first tasks at the company. And in later games, like New Leaf and New Horizons, various new KK Slider themes were written by a variety of composers. Shinobu Nagata, Sayaka Doi, Atsuko Asahi, and also Kazumi Totaka himself. So, in a 2020 interview, Kazumi Totaka said, "Over time, we've accumulated a lot of songs. Some were written because someone was good at that specific genre, while others were taken on as a challenge. Even if it's the first time we're creating a piece in a certain genre, we try to really understand that genre on a deep level and ensure that we're composing in a respectful manner." And I think that is the key to what makes KK Slider's music so beloved and enduring. Of course, KK Slider's unique voice is iconic, and people have a whole lot of affection for it. But if the songs weren't good, then people wouldn't want to listen to them. You have tunes like KK Cruisin' or KK Bubblegum, which have been replayed over and over, and even covered by musicians all over the world. Every Animal Crossing fan has a favourite KK Slider song, but the variety of styles and genres means that every time KK Slider sits down to perform, you're on the edge of your seat, waiting to hear just which song he's going to play next. Thanks so much for watching, and a huge thank you to my patrons for helping support videos like this one. In particular, a special shout out goes to Alison Withernall, Brett and Derek, Candy Crystal, Cyprian Eov, Daryl Gero, Ellie Birnbaum, Eliza the Doe, Evan Kinney, Hi There and Bye, Jim Gilsonen, Kieran Chan, Kelly Wright, Lucas Little, Michael Gunter, Skator Pie, Thomas Sutherland, and Tlazot Lalia.